And, well, let's go start off with what is... I was going to say it's the biggest film we're going to cover. It's actually not. We'll get to that one. But, yes, there's the lady, and she goes, kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you want to test me, we're sure you'll find the things we'll teach you is sure to beat you. But nevertheless, you get a lesson from Scott now. Come on now, why don't you follow Scott's words? Because we're far from done. He'll make it easy at first. I want to see if you want to see what it means. Do we the marvel with the master plan? Do they have a plan now?
It's a tortured Parappa the Rapper reference there for all the younger listeners. That was a game on the PlayStation which came out in, I think it was 1871.
It's actually 1869 originally in Japan, Scott. It didn't make it to the West till 1871, yes.
Yeah, well, the PAL conversion took a while back in those days, didn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, it's one of those things... See if that amuses only me.
It's worth it.
I'm honestly happy with that, and it seems like it amused you a bit at least, so yeah. I'll do. I was like, for some reason, it slipped into my head while watching this because it was kicking and punching, and
it was all
wasn't holding my attention all that well, and so I started thinking about Parappa because that's how I do.
Yes.
Yes. Do they have a plan, Scott?
We are talking, if we've not mentioned it, about Black Widow. It may have been buried in there somewhere. It's not actually an adaptation of Parappa the Rapper.
That's what you mentioned. I should have kept going without mentioning to see how long it's going to take till anybody clocked it.
Yes, well, this is finally an answer to the question that's been on everyone's lips. Just what did Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Black Widow Romanoff get up to in between Captain America Civil War and whatever the next one was, probably an Avengers film? A question that I presume someone must have had, maybe? No,
yes,
me neither.
Realize that was a question that should have been asked.
Yes.
Not once did that occur to me that was a question that had the possibility of being asked, but
yes.
We have the film anyway, so aren't we lucky?
Yes, definitely something I was happy to assume. But anyway, here we are. More precisely in 2016 we are, after a flashback to 1995, where young Natasha is part of a deep cover unit with David Harbour's Alexei Shostakovich, Rachel Weisz's Melina Voskov, and once she's grown up, Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova, where they're shown having the appearance and perhaps more of a family unit until they are activated and have to leave in a hurry, agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in pursuit, back to Russia. The unit is disbanded and the Kiddywinks head off to Ray Winston's General Dreykov's shady Red Room facility. Now, back in more modern times, and Romanov is busy running from S.H.I.E.L.D., escaping to Norway, where she finds that she's been mailed some vials of megaphenium. And the Taskmaster, who initially seems like a kung fu robot, is hot on the trail. After escaping, she globetrots off to Budapest, reuniting there with her sister, Belova, and after a bit of defecting-based tension, the two reunite in a bid to take down the Red Room once and for all, aided by the megaphenium, which it turns out is an antidote to the mind control techniques that General Dreykov has been using to control his army of Black Widow operatives, who of course are all now sicked on Belova and Romanoff, so they're going to need a little help from their family to complete their mission. Now, before I get too far into the weeds with Black Widow, I should say that it passed the time well enough, and it's a dependably marvelish instalment in their universe. So, if you just want the short form of this, if you've any tolerance left for Marvel films, fill your boots. However, after not all that much thought about it, I'm left mainly feeling with feeling of wasted opportunity and wasted potential from this film. There's a good number of ideas and elements here that I like, but the one thing that stops it being all that it could be is that damnable Marvel label, and is now surely the ultimate disapproval of the idea that this is a masterstroke, that all these films have the same tone no matter what the subject matter is. Now, taking any ideas from DC is obviously dangerous, but it would not hurt to have one film in this interminable parade of them be a little dark and gritty with a bit of a sharp edge, would it? And wouldn't it be this film that screams out for it? A film where now everyone is a mass-murdering assassin or the head of a brainwashing program that makes mass-murdering assassins? Shouldn't one of these films maybe explore the whole mass murder thing just a little? It's surely a better venue for a discussion on the morality and necessity of killing than Man of Steel was, right? And to be fair, there's moments where it's edging towards that before hastily backing away and cutting to David Harbour gurning with a comedy Russian accent, which, to be clear, is wonderful, but not the tone that this film needs to join up its actions and its emotions. And a lot of this, particularly early on, plays like Marvel's Bourne Identity and is much more interesting for it, but it just cannot help getting the same Marvel standard paint job. So in the same film where someone's trying to come to terms with the bombing of innocent children, the same characters also descending landing from a crashing space station by jumping down bits of falling debris like some cut-rate Sonic the Hedgehog cutscene. This is definitely an instance where they should not have gone big, but instead quite literally have gone home. For all the rest that Black Widow does, right or wrong, my abiding memory of this film will be ultimate confirmation that the Marvel Universe will not tolerate any deviation from the norm, even when the story badly needs it, and expecting any growth or change in it would be as futile as expecting any better from the Fast and the Furious. I give up. No mass. Well, maybe the next Thor film, if Korg's in it. Marvel film out of 10.
Yeah. It's like the whole Marvel franchise is on mood stabilizers, isn't it? There's no peaks, but there's no troughs either.
Yeah.
Unless you're like an emotional cripple, because again, and I don't care if you're upset by this, but the people who was at the end of Infinity War saying, "Oh, I'm so sad about all these," you knew it wasn't going to stick. None of that matters. And like how you know that they're just going to undo everything. Like, why would you care?
Yeah.
This film, no, apart from the start, which had me worried for two reasons. One is that it's picking up from where Civil War finished, and not only did I not care, I didn't care to be reminded of Civil War, which is terrible.
Yes.
So I didn't care what happened to the person who changed allegiances at the end of Civil War for some reason.
Yes.
Anyway, reasons of...
She was convinced by all the arguments that were taking place off camera, I guess.
She was convinced by all the arguments that weren't, yeah. Yes. She was convinced by the tremendously exciting setting too of the garages around the back of an airport. So apart from that, and also this abominable cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, which ought to be some sort of war crime, and I'm hoping the guilty party will be brought to justice soon, because that was terrible. Apart from that though, some of the start was quite promising. The flight from the SHIELD agents at the start was quite un-Marvel-like action, and I was there for it.
Yeah.
It was low-key. Obviously, there was a lot of CGI and green screen work, but it felt like almost like some of it could have been real. It's the sort of thing, had David Harbour been Tom Cruise, that'd have been real.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was that sort of level. It was more believable. It was something you would see in a Mission Impossible film, maybe even be a kind of lesser level stunt in a Christopher Nolan film or something like that.
Yeah.
Really good start. And then by the end, magic flying space castles crashing out of the sky because, yes, why not?
Yeah. I need a secret facility. What I'm going to use for the secret facility that no one will be able to see, space station. Okay. Because we don't have telescopes. What?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my problems too, is the Marvel films, there's no restraint. There's no apparent restriction what anybody can do, so it doesn't make anything interesting. There's never anybody needing to come up with some clever plan to defeat something. It's like everybody's always got everything. At the end of Black Panther, which is, to be clear, considerably worse than this, so that's good. Like Wakanda was like, we're the most advanced nation in the world and stuff, and then by the next film it didn't matter because Tony Stark at that point had actual magic.
Yeah.
And then there was a magic man who had the actual magic. So so this film suffers from that a wee bit. It's like there's this perfect mind control run through an iPad, apparently. And why? Because that's what comics do. It's like they write anything they can think of, and then they don't know notion of how any of it works, and the fact that everybody always seems to have everything anyway, none of it matters. And you'll see what I'm doing now is what exactly I try to avoid doing with Marvel, and it's the enemy of all Marvel films. I thought about it.
Yeah.
And while I watched this, I got out of the cinema and I thought, you know what? That was fine. I had problems with it watching it. It's fine. And then I started thinking about it and preparing for this. I was thinking about it more, and it all falls apart like all those films do.
Yeah.
And not thinking about it is not actually the solution, because if it was better, you wouldn't have to have that problem.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because there are moments there that are potentially really promising. The mood thing, Scott, is the thing, and some of the points you mentioned. There are moments here, and I was quite amused. I saw, just before I saw this, coincidentally, there was one of those honest trailers, which are generally less mean-spirited than something like Cinema Sins or something. An honest trailer's about like the Marvel films, and it was actually because it collected all the stuff together of the last like 12 years or whatever. This one thing, and like this trend that going through of like that pretty much every single emotional beat is instantly undercut by comedy or something because they can't commit to anything. Nothing's meaningful.
Yeah.
This film actually probably 50% of the time restrains itself from that. And I was really genuinely very pleased when the group all trundle off and they meet Rachel Weisz and Florence Pugh and David Harbour having this conversation, and I kept expecting it to be undercut.
Yeah.
Like the emotional bits at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy are undercut, and it's been in almost all the other films apart from Tony Stark's funeral. It's the only time that it's not happened. And that's probably only because Tony Stark wasn't alive. Had he been... Not like in a metaphysical way of it being his own funeral, but like that Carter would have probably said something stupid because he couldn't handle emotions. But yeah, they have these emotional scenes, and she's saying, "You were like everything to me," and it's like I kept waiting for it to drop. I kept waiting for the undercut. I was like, "Oh, it didn't happen." They let that play out, and then the action scene happened from outside. Oh, they are capable of it. Look at that. They're allowing emotions to happen in the film. And again, it's only 50% of the time, but it's better than it never happening. Yeah. The problems are... Oh, it's the fact that it just ramps up to really dull and not vaguely interesting CGI set pieces at the end, when like the interesting bits was the lower key character moments. Yeah.
There's got to be a first draft of this somewhere that's a very personal revenge story on the basis that, you know, perhaps slight spoilers, but the Russian general... with another comedy accent, Ray Winston's general, you know, it was his kid that was killed. He wants revenge on Romanov. Romanov's still trying to get revenge for all the people. You know, there's lots of interplay you can get there and lots of drama you could mine for it. I'm sure that Scarlett Johansson would have been very happy to get into that stuff because she kind of hints at it in places when she kind of remembers what's happened with the events of her past. And if that was just small and was left to being a climax of just people punching each other in a room with a fixed camera and not bouncing down the side of a satellite, it would be much better. You don't need to go big all the time. I thought they might have learned this, Disney might have learned this lesson when, after failing with all the Star Wars stuff, the kind of smaller scale stuff in The Mandalorian is the only one that people seem to actually like. I thought they might have been about ready to do the same kind of thing with their tentpole franchises, but apparently not. They've just got to have the big finish. They've got to have the spectacle of it, and really it's by far and away the least interesting part of this film.
Yeah, I mean it generally is anyway.
Yeah,
but it's because in this more than any other films it's so out of place too, because Scarlett Johansson, despite falling down buildings and not having it more than a tiny scratch on her back or something,
not actually a god,
isn't a superhero. She's not Captain America. She's not the Hulk. She's not even Tony Stark with his magic armor. She's a woman. She's a regular human. She's well-trained and skillful. Okay. She's a person. She can't do all these things, but they have to do them anyway because, you know, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating because if there's any film that would sustain this and it would make sense and that you quite reasonably wouldn't expect all of the big set pieces, it's this one. But no, they're in there anyway. And there's other moments too, like part of certainly up to the end of Endgame, where it did feel like there was a through line. Even when some of the crossover bits seemed a bit forced, there was a through line. It seemed like they had a plan and a destination. Now that they've got there, it's kind of like we've finished it. What do we do now? Well, we can't actually finish it, so we'll just stick some other stuff out. But while those seem connected, I was sort of glad that the film isn't as tied into the other MCU stuff as those other films had been, sometimes necessarily so. So that was good, but at the same point, when they didn't do that, it's like, well, how is this a Marvel film other than the fact that it's got this incredibly dull tone the whole way through it? But yeah, it's like, well, what's the point of this film? Because that character's dead. She didn't actually get much chance to do anything interesting before that anyway. Bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Here and there. She was never like I mean, partly because of Scarlett Johansson, she was a really likeable character. She kind of, as part of a group of people, she was quite an important part of that group and she could interact with the different people and things like that. But as an actual character that you saw, you don't see a lot of her. It's not very interesting. Yeah. But there are bits that are hinted about that are really interesting, like apparently her way into S.H.I.E.L.D. Although they keep saying that she left the employ of Ray Winston to become an Avenger, which wasn't a thing yet, so I'm not sure how that works, but okay. But yeah, so her way into S.H.I.E.L.D. was to kill this little girl, and then her sister's almost teasing her about, oh no, but you had to kill this little girl. But yeah, but how many people have just died in that car crash, or that car chase through the street you've both just been in?
Yes.
Do those people not count the several dozen people you must have killed? Inadvertently as it may be, but in this car chase in the middle of a busy European city. So there's no joined up thinking goes on in a lot of these films.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think my biggest issue with the film is one of tone, because you have those smaller moments and they don't work, but there's hints of something interesting there, and the lower key moment at the start, and then by the end of it, massive CGI battles, and then for some reason they have this touchy moments, and they're suggesting like these girls were effectively kidnapped, forced to be these assassins, but then they're making jokes about the forced sterilization, which is forever a source of humour. It's like really awkward tone in there. Yeah, and also it's weird. The film's meant to be about Scarlett Johansson's character and, well, her family. Family. It's a word I currently hate with a passion, for reasons we'll soon get to. But it's not, it kind of diminishes the character, because it's all these other films like, oh, you're the famous Black Widow, and it turns out, oh no, there are dozens of them.
Yeah.
So she's not the famous Black Widow, she's just a Black Widow, and it kind of diminishes that character, which is not what they intended, I'm sure, but it does.
Yeah.
These Black Widows, incidentally, who, again, apparently through the medium of an iPad, Ray Winston can click a button and make economies collapse and things, and governments fall because he has them in different places around it. But how? No, you've not to ask that.
Yes.
But how? Quick, look over there, something shiny. Talking of Ray Winston, he's terrible in this, but I don't think that's Ray Winston's problem. It's like, apart from Thanos, there's never been an interesting villain in the MCU.
No.
Not one. And what was interesting about Thanos, apart from like the charisma that Josh Brolin brought to the role, and unlike the comic books where he's trying to impress a woman because comic books are stupid, he believed, insane as it was, that he was doing something good, he was doing the right thing. But what does Ray Winston's character want? Well, it's power. What did Ronan want in the Guardians of the Galaxy? Power. He was like suggested he's a fanatic, but no, he just wanted power. And everybody's really dull.
Yeah.
And so Ray Winston's here, and he's really, really dull, but also vaguely magic because of pheromones. Yeah, I did think about this, and it's bad.
Yeah. I'd happily watch a film that was just David Harbour. Let's get him back and give him a run. Let's give him a Netflix series of the Red Defender in his glory days. I'd happily watch that. He's funny.
Yeah, David Harbour. But again, though, David Harbour's got the range there that he could do those touchy moments too. He kind of looks sort of discomforted and stuff, and like, oh, I've been a complete pillock.
Yeah.
But it did work, and he can do that transition.
Yeah.
Too, because he looks so goofy. It still fits his stuff when he's in his suit, and he's got the beer belly coming out and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, his character's really good, and probably the best thing about the film, and I don't want to be too negative about it, but it's just, and one of the things while I was watching it though that bothered me is like the back and forth between Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson felt forced, certainly kind of lacking in energy. There wasn't really any good chemistry between them. And I don't know if it's the lines they were being asked to deliver that made it bad, or that their bad delivery made the lines seem bad, but there was just like lines that could be like very, very mildly amusing, and sort of like you get in that situation about like, oh, you missed the thing, and kind of slight teasing. Yeah, it was just delivered so flatly.
Yeah,
that they fell flat.
Weirdly, they're both much better on their own. They have kind of little moments when they're acting against nobody that worked much better, which is strange.
Maybe they didn't get on. I mean, it happens. You can't expect every human to like every other human. So maybe it simply was, there was a lack of chemistry between them, because that's how it feels.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, there are moments like Florence Pugh has that moment because she's kind of been ribbing Scarlett Johansson earlier about her pose that she does.
Yeah.
And that's almost fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
And then she
Look,
has
you're not Deadpool. Stop it.
Yeah. But then she has that wee moment about it, and it's like, you know what, that's quite nice, actually. And I had a wee chuckle at that. That was quite pleasant. Yeah, but so they do have moments on their own, as you say, Scott. And then all the other bits when they're together, I mean, I know they're supposed to be sort of slightly bickering, but it's just, it doesn't feel like there's any chemistry between them.
Yeah.
Like the actors, not the characters. Yeah, so, yeah, just really flat delivery, but yeah, the dialogue is pretty insipid anyway, so it's maybe partly that.
Yeah.
Because there's a few moments where the attempts at humour fall pretty flat. And I guess, I mean, I know I'm sounding really negative. Of all the films we're covering in this film, this is by a margin the one I enjoyed most. So, yeah, buckle up, folks, because it's going to be a wild ride. But yeah, it's just one of those ones that really did fall apart afterwards. But it's a lot of it is the same problems of all the other Marvel films. You know, they're completely, all the sharp edges are shaved off.
Yeah.
There's no big highs, and there's no low lows, and it kind of really suffers for that. And this may be one of the worst ones. And you've got the terrible, terrible villain, the fact it's associated with Civil War at all. And then just like characters, like why are they in there? Apparently that Taskmaster character, apparently that's controversial. I'm vaguely aware that maybe that's because that character was male, as if somehow that would matter.
Yeah.
Unless being male was integral to that character, then the gender of the character as portrayed on screen doesn't matter. But yeah, Olga Kurylenko, well, that was a thankless role.
Yes. For most of the film, a faceless robot. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and what did she get to say? Like 3 lines or something? Or 3 words, probably.
Yeah.
It's... yeah, that was a weird casting. Yeah, it's... I mean, and it's full of typically stupid stuff, like the scene with the nose breaking, which I knew was coming, but it was very, very stupid. And also, like falling down the side of a building had no consequence.
Yes.
Not even blood, let alone bruises, not even blood. I've never broken my nose, but it has been burst several times and tends to leave quite a mess on your face.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing was, and I guess this is probably going back to its origins, but like the whole idea is very Soviet. And so much of it feels like it should be like set in the 60s or 70s. It has that feel about it.
Yeah.
But it begins in like 1995. It feels so out of place, and it kind of doesn't make sense because after the fall of the Soviet Union, so who is Ray Winston working for?
Yeah.
and why is he doing what he's doing? And how is he funding a giant magical space castle?
I think he's working for the same Russian separatists that were always in the Call of Duty games. Because they...
yeah, maybe. I mean, I know after a while that gets kind of self-funding, but it's like... and the sort of... no, I'm going to stop now. I mean,
yeah.
It was okay, and I enjoyed it more than, Black Panther because it made more sense, not much more, but also didn't have tinfoil-covered rhinos because yes, that still bothers me. And so it's not the worst of the Marvel films, and again, it's not Civil War, although it has about as much consequence, I think. No, yeah, it's all right. I mean, I've seen all the others, and actually, I can't remember if I've said this in the podcast. Just like I went back and watched all of the Marvel films again towards the start of this year, perhaps not that long ago, anyway, and thoroughly enjoyed most of them. I mean, they're confections. Martin Scorsese is right. They're roller coaster rides, they're theme park rides. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. Sometimes I want a theme park ride.
Yeah.
It's just anybody trying to suggest they're anything other. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed them. But this is very, very much in the lower half of the output. I would still recommend, if you've seen others, I still recommend it. It's probably enough to enjoy. And it doesn't actually feel all that long.
No.
I don't remember particularly noticing it dragging, which I had kind of expected it to. But for once, that was not the case. How long is it? 134 minutes. So maybe actually a fraction shorter than some of these. But no, it flew along quite well. I was that wasn't an issue for once. But if you do watch it, do not stay for the end credits sequence because it's offensive. It's deeply, deeply offensively stupid.
What I liked about it is it did actually remind me that in continuity, Black Widow's dead because I'd forgotten, because that's the amount of emotional impact that Marvel films have on me. Of all the Marvel films, as I said before, this is the one that is hurt most by it needing to be a Marvel film when the content clearly needs it not to be a Marvel film. But as I said, just like you, when I was watching it the first time through, it went through perfectly fine. So if you're still in the market for Marvel films these days, then this is as enjoyable enough for a first watch, brainless spectacle as all the rest of them are. But yeah, it could have been something much, much better. And it's annoying because I can see those connections that I could have. Yeah. It doesn't require an awful lot of moving things around to make this something that would actually be really great. Like, something that would do for the comic books now, like something like the original kind of like Nolan's Batman films did, something that could actually give it a bit of impact, the lasting impact, and it just doesn't. It chickens out and becomes a Marvel film again, and that's annoying.
Yeah, what this needed to be, and I think probably what the Marvel films needed, right? What this needed to be was a character piece.
Yeah.
It's not, it's a crappy action film.
Yeah.
They've got lots of those.
Yeah.
It needed to be a character piece. And that, I'm slightly worried now about where that end credit sequence is taking us, because it's, this woman who wasn't killed, sacrificed her own life to save the entire universe. Well, now we're going to force a stupid misunderstanding and also diminish her sacrifice. So, consequences.
Well,
yes, this is the film I enjoyed most. Oh, God. This is going to be a long day.